Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Harrington and I am the author of The Girl in the Pink Shoes. I promised everyone I would do a live video, but unfortunately we had a few technical difficulties. I'm here with Jeremy Indika to talk about his story.
Thank you for having me and coming to meet me. You've driven ages for this, so that's fantastic. So for anybody that has not come across my work before, my name is Jeremy Indika. I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse, and I am sharing my story online to raise awareness, much like Jessica is. And I'm trying to just create content that is engaging for the viewer, and I'm using film, animation, photography to try to do that. So my mission really is to try to get this subject on as many people's table as possible, because I believe it is everybody's concern. What I like to say is that everybody has a child in their own family, or they have a friend who has a child, or everybody is interested in the well-being of children. So that's why I think this subject is everybody's concern. So I'll just go into a bit of my story. Yeah. So the sexual abuse that I went through occurred when I was 8 years old, and it went on for a couple of years. It was a trusted family member, and this is a common story. He groomed me very, very successfully. I believed that we were friends. I believed that our friendship was special. I believed that all the things he was asking me to do were things that if I did for him, I would be a better boy, or if I did for him, we'd be better friends. And I feel like that's really difficult for a lot of people to get their head around, this grooming process when it's with young children. And that's something that I really just want to explain. Now, I am 36 years old now, and actually I didn't speak out about the abuse that I went through until I was 27 years old. So that's nearly 20 years after the abuse began. And one of the reasons why I never said anything about it was because up until I was in my mid-20s, I didn't really care about it. So I had a great career, I had great friends, life was going really well, and it just wasn't bothering me. But then in my mid-20s, I started just to get really sad about it. I just started to feel really sad and really down about it. And that's when I spoke out for the first time. And then once I'd spoken out for the first time, I continued speaking, which now leads me 10 years later to the situation where I'm in now, where I've got social media platforms, YouTube channel, and I'm trying to make short films on this subject. So that's where I'm at. So Jessica, I came across your work a little while ago, maybe a few weeks ago. How long have we been speaking for? Yeah, so a couple of months ago. And so I got the basics of your story, but maybe just for everyone listening, maybe we could chat about maybe what it was like to speak out, or what we're trying to do now.
Yeah. I watched your video on YouTube when you knocked on the door.
Okay. Yeah.
What was sort of the outcome for anyone who hasn't actually watched it?
Yeah.
Sort of what happened?
Yeah. So that was a crazy moment.
I was sitting there watching it with my partner. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "No."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you say that, because I was hoping that the video that I created on that kind of got you engaged emotionally.
It was very powerful.
Yeah, about what it could feel like to confront the person that abused you as a child. So when I tried to prosecute the man that did this to me, which was in 2018, and I got told that I couldn't prosecute him because of a lack of evidence, I was just so angry that he had denied it, and I thought to myself, well, he shouldn't have to face me. Yeah? He should have to face me, and he's not I feel like sometimes the media portray paedophiles as some monsters that are to be feared, when he's just another man. You know?
And I think some people, they try and act like it's actually mental health, right?
Yes.
And hide behind the mental health rather than actually facing what that person did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are trying to hide behind the people that are doing these things. Are trying to wriggle their way out of the situation. I just managed to find out where he lives, and I went and knocked on his door.
You must have been terrified.
And yeah, I mean, my heart was racing at the time. Actually, when I found out where he lived, I thought I'd come back on another day, but I just decided we just got to do it now.
Yeah.
Right? He's in there.
And if you walked away, you probably wouldn't come
And maybe I wouldn't come back. You just got to kind of seize the moment. So I just knocked, and he answered. And to look him in the eye and call him out on everything was quite an experience. But I say that actually it was probably one of the best things I've ever done. And that is by no means any advice to anybody to go and do that. I would never advise anybody to repeat that behaviour, because it got me in trouble, right? I was arrested and then taken to court for it. So I would never advise anybody to do that. But the power to just like call him out to his face and let him know that what happened will never be forgotten. And what happened is something that he's going to now need to live with, and the fact that I am outspoken about it.
Got to live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But now it's all about like how do we live with this, and how do we manage this the best we can? And I'm sure you mentioned it in your book, and with everything that you're trying to do, I suppose there's an inspirational aspect to it, an encouraging aspect to it, because you want to just show people that if this has happened to you, there's a way through it.
Yeah, I think when you're going through it, I think you might actually understand more than anyone. You feel like you can't get out of the situation, and sometimes you feel like actually killing yourself is probably the only way out.
Yeah.
But even though when you're going for the worst thing possible, it only takes one thing, something small, to actually guide you and help you get out of the situation. And you know, this saying of obviously you feel at the bottom of the sea, but things can turn around, and you just got to kind of hold on and hope that sort of someone will sort of, if you tell someone, try and get help, that person might actually be able to be your little angel.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe with your work, you're definitely, and with our work, we're definitely, hopefully, going to be that person for some people.
Yeah. I think we're all working for the same thing, and I think like all of us can sort of talk and come together with things, and actually instead of helping people after the abuse, helping it before it actually comes. Obviously some people say, or it doesn't happen in my neighbourhood, or I don't know where that happens, but unfortunately it happens everywhere. And until you think that actually that's my daughter or that's my son or granddaughter, people are not speaking up, and obviously there are a lot of people who are, and that's great. And obviously if we can get more people to actually come together as a community, you know, maybe more children, because I was looking at my boy the other day, and I look at him and think, actually, he's the future of our lives.
Wow.
And do you know what I mean? So if we can help children, it's going to help our future.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're planning to get into schools?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Now, you finding difficulty in doing that, or?
I'm in talks with schools, and I'm talking to my previous school, and they're actually looking at changes. We are in talks with the charity. We are setting up uniform days. We are also looking at having a day where obviously survivors come into the school and do talks and make children understand that it's not like putting it black and white and going, if that person blah blah blah, and make them feel scared. It's about making them realise that if it's a wrong thing, and if they can just go to the teacher and actually have a teacher to feel safe, it might actually not stop it, but it might help. It might do something. And if we don't do something, because we're all community at the end of the day, and if we can't come together and help each other, it's not really a great
community. I completely agree. And so much of my work that I'm putting online is towards education with children. Like when I think about when I was 8 years old and going through this and being groomed, what is it that I needed? What is it that would have helped me at that time? And that is just to know what was right and wrong with inappropriate touch. Like that's just a massive thing for me. If I knew the areas on my body that nobody is allowed to go near, And I knew that as a rule, and I knew that, and that had been educated to me like year on year throughout my life. I would have known that when he asked me to do certain things, I would have been able to be like, oh, no, I'm not meant to do that, and then I would have possibly told someone.
Yeah, I agree. But I went to school and asked my friends. How it sort of started with me is my stepdad kissed me, and I ran to my mum. But obviously I hesitated and thought it's only a kiss, and jumped in the shower, and that was sort of my safe place, and went to school and sort of spoke to my friends, and no, that's normal, dads and mums do kiss. And for a child they are right, dads and mums do kiss, but not in that way. And for me being a child and obviously not knowing what was going on, I thought that was a normal kiss. So I took that as, oh, he's right, okay. And that shouldn't be the case.
So if you also feel that if you had been educated more and it had just been spoken about openly.
Definitely.
I think when you touched on it there saying about the kissing thing, I think that is something people don't really think about a lot. I think when you talk about child sexual abuse, people think it's like some aggressive, like forceful, painful, hurting experience, when actually it could be soft and gentle.
Well, I'm actually finding it, a few of my messages actually on Facebook, obviously on comments, obviously on different pages, who haven't read my book, they talk about obviously, well, why didn't you do anything? Like, why didn't you run away? But when you haven't been through abuse, you don't understand. You think like when you haven't been abused, that it all happens all at once and you just run away. But we're not talking about a one night sort of night. We're talking about something that gradually. And when someone grooms you, they do things like so slowly that actually you end up thinking that that's normality. So something that could turn from touching your arm to your legs, and then a kiss now and then, that comes normality. And then because he does it, you sort of think that's normal.
And you accept it.
And then more gradually carries on. And you sort of get in this circle, and it sort of happens like, well, I found that.
And my situation is very similar, and before you know it, you're doing the craziest things that in your mind as a child are just part of the routines. People are often asking me, how did the grooming process happen? What even happened? And I say the same thing, because I can't really remember. All I remember was being naked and doing crazy stuff that if I explained in a video and posted it would get taken down. Right? It's that crazy, horrific. All the lead up until that like naked activity we were doing, I can't really remember the grooming process, but it would have happened so gently. Like you say, maybe just touch on the leg, or maybe just more hugging. And then maybe a suggestion. Then maybe we play games with t-shirts off, and we got skin on skin contact.
And they buy you something to sort of, when they know they pushed the line a little bit, they buy you something. And then you sort of like, oh, okay. And it sort of, something will happen, and it just changes the whole thing, and they push it.
So that's just the grooming process. And I don't think people truly understand the grooming process. I think we should talk about it even more. We should like, whenever we're doing speaking events or anything like that's just something we need to explain, that for anybody that thinks this would never happen to my child, well, it could happen to any child.
I've had so many mums actually come on my Facebook and say, obviously, please don't, tell anyone, but, obviously there's quite a few women who have actually had to remove themselves from, obviously, their partners abusing their children, and obviously with the police and everything at the moment, and I won't name them. But obviously, obviously, for them to sort of come out, which is a massive step, and to realise that actually, that's what my partner is doing to my kids, and actually realising that your children are more important.
Absolutely.
Like, I look at my son and think, I don't know how anyone could. It's just.
So that's an interesting point, though. So then, with your son, and please, if you don't want to talk about this, then please just say it and we'll move on, so it's all good. What steps will you take to make sure he is educated to try to prevent this from happening? Like you'll speak openly.
Right. Now this is why I'm going to the schools, because something's got to start, and I think the schools are a perfect place. Obviously, when my child, my son, is going to school, I expect that he's been brought up to know that actually mummy did something like that, which I would never. Or daddy did something, or someone close to him. He would have someone to talk to, and I think every child, it's important for them to feel like they have a safe person. And when my child is in school, I hope that something is in place. And I obviously, when he grows up, I'll teach him the correct way of obviously not scaring him, but trying to make him aware that these things are not right, and the private places are the private places, and no one touches them. I think obviously when he's old enough, I hope like he'll sort of be proud of me and read the book and
good on you.
But this is why the book and everything is for him, sort of thing, to realise that they're just children at the end of the day.
And I think it's important that we talk to like a 5-year-old very different to how we talk to a 7-year-old, to a 9-year-old, to a 13-year-old. So the education isn't like a one-hit thing. It's not like, we give them one lesson and we're good.
I think that's important in schools, because they're sort of explaining what a willy is and what's this. They're not actually going round the circle and explaining what's right, what's wrong, and stuff like that. I think abusers, weirdly, could actually benefit that as well, because obviously abusers come from somewhere, and that starts in school. Now, if they know that's not right, maybe it might actually help as well.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I've never thought of that before. So what we're saying is that paedophiles went through school once. So if they also were aware, just a bit more aware, it could potentially prevent things. I've got a question for you that's a challenging question. What do you think we should do with the paedophiles that have served their prison time but are now released out into our communities? Have you ever thought of that question? It's probably the first thing.
Well, what I've thought of is
So we know what the real answer to that is, but the answer in reality.
I think that my main problem right now is what comes with the panel. What I find unbelievable is I found it actually since this book, and that's why it's given me so much determination, because so many survivors are obviously standing up, and like my abuser got 7 years, and he served 3.5.
Oh wow.
Now,
that's
you
crazy.
go to the post office and you steal a 20 minute. You 15 years at least. Now something needs to be bigger. It's not for taking someone's life, because that's what you're doing. You're taking their innocence. You're taking their mental health. There's a lot to do with what you do to a child when you do something like that. And I think if they had a bigger punishment, I think that there should be actually more help for survivors rather than abusers, because there's more help than in prison for abusers than survivors, where it should be both parties. I think they also should be sort of, my stepdad is actually out now, and part of me terrifies me, part of me thinks actually if I see them I'll probably go mental, but there's no sort of security. And I think that there should be something to go, actually, you shouldn't be naked, you shouldn't be eating anything. Why do you deserve to have a second chance when you took someone else's? Sort of?
And there's no restrictions on him, right? That's so crazy.
Well, he's just finished his probation, so he's come off his tag. He's on a child section.
The register,
for the rest of his life, but it still is. You got, obviously he's walking around Tesco's and whatever. And obviously there's loads of children. It's just awful.
So this panel thing that
I think maybe going down a different route and actually letting people know where these people are.
Well, I think they do that in America, you know.
They do. The US, I think.
Where you can search.
There's the little app to find out who the neighbours are.
So I don't think we do that in this country, do we?
Not yet, hopefully.
So this panel thing that you just mentioned, that we're hopefully both going to be on, So, like, could you just explain a little bit about that? Because I'd love to know a little bit more about that as well. Are you allowed to?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the panel was meant to be on the 25th. It's been moved to the 25th, I believe, of February. I need to find out for definite. It's a child abuse bill, and it's to it's got the Staffordshire Police, the Mayor of Suffolk, and it's got me obviously, and quite a few obviously the police commissioners and stuff like that. And it's to raise abuse bill, and what their plan is to raise it in Sussex. The reason why they're not going to do it well in the United or the UK is because they want to work out whether it's going to work, and if it's successful, then they will put it in place for the whole UK.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I would love to get to have an influence on the police system as well, because going through the justice system for me was like pretty horrendous. Sitting there and giving your statement. Like mine was like a 3-hour statement where I was giving every detail, pretty horrendous. Trying to prosecute the person that did it is pretty, as you know.
I think mine was actually like 24 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But I had to keep coming back because I found it obviously really difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it for you, but I pretty much got shoved in a room with a piece of paper. And it was just like that. It was daunting and terrifying. And it took me, let's say, just like over a year to write my book. Now, how do you tell a child to write on sheets of paper? Where do you begin? Where do you start with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was in a room with one officer, and he apologised to me because he said usually they have 2 officers in there, one to care for the person who's the survivor, and the other police officer to ask the questions. But he said because funds have been cut, they can only afford now to have 1 officer in there. So it's just like the whole thing's so crazy.
I think if there's more support as well, I think that would have helped big time.
Yeah. Just to get your words out, because it is terrifying, isn't it?
It is one of the hardest things I think I've done.
Yeah.
I'm sure you.
It was really terrifying.
It's not even. It's just obviously trying to actually you're outing someone. Sort of court is a big thing. It's not just obviously it's not just court, is it? It's your life. You're talking about something that's very delicate.
That's very delicate. And also, I just think the whole process, not just the police investigation, but for me, the speaking to somebody for the first time about it, speaking to a close friend for the first time about it, going public with my story for the first time on social media was just such a crazy feeling. And in my head, I'm like, why is it so crazy? Like, because all I'm really doing, when I think about it like logic, literally, all I'm really doing is telling somebody what happened to me, right? What somebody did to me when I was a child. But there's just this crazy shame about it. There's this crazy, for me personally, because it was man on man, my abuser was a man, there's this like almost embarrassment about it, I
think, so obviously with me I was very embarrassed, but everyone obviously I speak to is embarrassed, and I think the thing we need to come across is to not be embarrassed, because it's not your fault, it's their fault, and if anything they should feel embarrassed.
I'm such a believer for that. Absolutely. I really want to just try my hardest to show other men, right, that if this happened to them, that there's no embarrassment.
No.
Because it happened to you. You were a child. You were of a vulnerable age where, when you're young, you believe most things, right? So there's no embarrassment to be had. Try to cut the shame. And I'm not saying that I've done it. I'm not saying that I never get embarrassed about what happened, or carry shame. I still do, but I'm trying my hardest to shed as much as I can.
I think for me, when you grow up, back then it was sort of very much like your parents know best, and you're just a child, and sort of you don't know right. They know it all. And I think for me it was sort of like, well, because my parents have said it, but it must be real. But sort of until it's like the same with birth, the sky is sort of pink, and then like a stranger sort of comes around and tells you it's pink, and it's like you're meant to be believing your parents who put you off all this time. It's not actually the truth.
Amazing. So the title of your book where has that come from? How did you come up with that?
I had pink shoes for my prom.
Okay.
And my drama therapist who got involved, she obviously was a very big part of she was one of the person who, you sort of read the book and everyone said this, like, you just go, oh my god, please someone help her. And she sort of comes round and she's like, everyone's like, oh thank god she's there. But she's amazing, and she wrote her little book called The Future of Pink Shoes for her job.
Okay.
And because it was sort of a little dedication to her, because
amazing.
She helped me so much.
Yeah.
And today she's coming to schools with me, and obviously trying to help me do what I'm doing. And obviously because she works as a therapist, she's trying to, obviously she gets quite angry because she's trying to do help children. And obviously ever since then I sort of wear pink shoes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great. Yeah, okay, so I mean, we talked just before we started recording about me possibly writing a book, which I'd love to do. I should really just start it, I suppose, is the best thing. Yeah. Just start it. I just write my story down, really, because I just know that you got a lot of men following your page. Yeah, and I just think so many men message me just saying that they wish that they, or hearing me speak out, it gives them some confidence that possibly they would speak out a little bit more.
I've got so many followers whose wife has been abused and they've been abused, and they obviously want to know how you got through it and how you cope, because obviously coming from male, it's a bit more easier for a bloke to talk to rather than with a woman. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk to you today, because I think like a book idea would be
fantastic.
I think like when you write the book, I think you've got to realise that there's probably a lot more demons in you remember, because I found that. I sort of just decided to write it all, and then you start remembering a lot more details, and it gets really hard.
So I mean, I suppose I just need to start putting down the building blocks. I think for any guys that are listening, I suppose I should say that, like, it's really just not an easy road. None of it is simple. Just however after the abuse is finished, however you're dealing with the memories, for me it was, I just buried them away for 20 years, which actually I'm thankful for in some way, because I had my teenage years and had my early 20s, just not worrying about it. Like, I'd never forgotten about it. It was always there. The Jimmy Savile case was on the news and it would remind me about what happened. But like I say, I just had this amazing career. I was working all around the world. I had great friends. I was out partying, and so I just didn't want to deal with it. But then when I came round to deal with it, it was pretty terrible. Just feeling sad, looking back at that child that I was, and feeling sad for that boy. But when I spoke out for the first time, I was at a party. I'd had a few drinks, and it was a close friend of mine, and he was actually a friend of mine when the abuse was going on, so of that age. And I just sat down and I said to him, mate, you're just never going to believe what happened to me. And he was like, what are you going on about? I was like, look, something really terrible happened to me when I was a child. And then I just started speaking to him about it. And what I say about it all the time is, once I had spoken, the response that I felt like inside of me was incredible. I felt like this weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt like I'd really achieved something. I felt strong, right? So for anybody that is thinking about speaking out, I always just try to say that for me, it works really well. For me, it worked really well. I felt good afterwards. I felt confident. Now, that wasn't like the end of the road. It wasn't like after that everything was cool. Everything was good for some time, but then the sadness will come back, or the anger would come back, and then, you know what, I just kept speaking. I just kept speaking to more and more people, and that's how really I just started to become confident with the story. I'm of a strong belief that these stories that we have, they're so powerful. I mean, you can see it on your Facebook page, right? People are just so inspired. They're so powerful. It's just, we need to tell them. You know, we just need to tell them. When did you first speak out about it?
So it's not actually in the book. It's a book.
Okay.
But I spoke out to my ex-partner.
Okay.
But I didn't actually speak out because there's a little twist. He basically was driving my stepdad, because we'd got back into contact, home after being late in the pub. And he basically offered for me to have his recent phone. So I was sort of like, yeah, you know, I'll come get it another day. And he insisted, so I went down to the house with him, because there's like, you've got to go up the hill, go straight, and then go right down to the houses. And he was waiting in the car, and he basically got out of the car because we were about 15 minutes. So he starts walking down the driveway and sees he was abusing me in a bush. He sort of like stands there and says, "What are you doing?"
Oh wow.
Yeah. And he then, you know, sort of went, you know, and then we got back in the car. He didn't really sort of think about what was actually going on. We got probably about 5-10 minutes down the drive, and he goes, Did I just see what I thought I saw? It is a book too. I'm sorry, but yeah.
You can cut this out. That's no problem.
But he slams on the brakes and he goes back to the house. He starts driving to the house, and obviously I begged him not to because I knew like something would, you know. And the next day went to college, and he blackmailed him for £300, and he says, if you don't put £300 in my bank account by the end of the day, I'm going to the police.
Wow.
Within 2 hours it was in his account.
Oh wow.
So obviously that came handy when court came around. But it obviously didn't say anything until probably he blackmailed me to stay with him. Eventually I was like, no, enough is enough, because I can't say too much about that. And then he told my social worker, which then told the police. And
okay. You can just cut all that out. You're gonna edit this anyway, right? You can cut all that out.
But big story.
Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna write the second book, or you're writing the second book already?
It's half.
Oh my goodness! How many hours a day are you spending on writing?
It's been a lot.
It's a full-time thing. You must feel like really confident now that your first book's out.
Yeah, I think when I first got the book out, I was just nervous how people were going to take it. It's a big.
You put in your life.
Story. It's not just that. It's a big story about child abuse.
Yeah.
I find that people are trying to put it under the carpet and don't want to talk about these things.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like people, obviously, you know, it's a hard read, and you know, some people can't read it, and it's like it's not it's a must read. At the end of the day, this is what's going on. And when I first took it out, I thought, is it too much, too detailed?
Okay.
Because it goes into detail exactly what happened to the point. You know, what was in the room, how he did it, obviously how the extent of the room goes. But I thought, no, there was no sort of sugarcoat for me.
Wow.
So why does people need to know how bad a child actually gets abused, and that's what real life is like. So I got really nervous. Some of my family was behind me, which was lovely.
Okay.
But it went amazing. It was amazing how it went, because I never thought so many people would support me and be there for me, and the comments are just all overwhelming. Yeah,
I mean the response you get on your Facebook is incredible. I know that if you were to make a video about something and put it on your Facebook or your Instagram or all those platforms, and you were to go into as much detail as you have in the book, that video would get pulled off the internet. I think it just would.
That's what we're finding. Some pages we put on the book, and people say, you know, to the admin, report it. I don't want to see things like that on my wall. And then you get some people like, well, just, if you don't like it, just scroll past.
Oh, so you put pages of it, you posted pages of it?
Pages.
Okay, but
just like basically explaining what the book is, what my goals are, what I want to achieve, and trying to spread awareness.
Yeah, okay. And what is your aims and goals?
My idea is to sort of get obviously a charity up and running, and I hope that obviously that will help children and obviously put something in schools. I think obviously sentencing does need to change. I think schools need to change. I think the whole atmosphere of it. It's someone I know actually. She works within like therapy work and counselling, stuff like that. And to speak to someone professional about that client is really hard.
Yeah.
So if the tape was written off and they could communicate, that child could actually get the help they need.
Yeah.
So hopefully, obviously, we've got the panel which will hopefully help something, obviously sentencing and stuff like that. Obviously, as much as I can do really, because I see it as, why did I survive? I went through a lot, and I didn't think at the time I should have, but I did. And I think I should use my experiences to help children and hopefully try and make a difference.
Yeah, so that's exactly how I feel about it. I feel like I went through an experience that I'm now out of, in some ways kind of on the other side of it, and now I want to look at what happened, what the situation was, why it happened, what could have prevented it, and try to use that information to move forward with the situation. Now, I'm not in schools, I'm not building a charity, so I'm not doing those things yet, I feel, but what I am trying to do is I'm just trying to focus on my online presence. So continue making these short films. I've got 3 more coming out in the next month, and continue building my presence online, because if I could make a video that gets put on, shared, and then people who never even really think about this subject see it, that's my target at the moment. Schools is something that I definitely want to get into, but I've had some success with some of my videos. A couple of them have gone to the hundreds of thousands, and I just feel like there'll be at least 10% of those people who have never ever thought about this subject before, but through watching the video are now a little bit more aware.
It's just like my partner went into W. Smith, and he saw this little girl, well, not little girl, but like 12, 13. She had cuts all over her arms, and she was sort of standing away from her parents, really like away, and they were quite, not aggressive, but just you could tell something was wrong. But my partner made quite a point. What do? You can't exactly. You ring the police. You can't exactly tell them
what they were.
But he's trying to make something that actually someone can go, I need help.
Yes. Okay. So you're trying to make something where the young person can reach out.
Well, it's obviously for people who obviously want to help, but don't know how to. It's got to be some sort of thing we can do to put in place.
Because I don't offer anything like that. I don't offer any kind of like mine is just a platform at the moment with content, and just moving forward into the future, to actually make these changes, actually make permanent changes.
I've got a little idea that I was thinking of making little kitty links. So if it's boys, you'd have like something like football, skateboards, shoes, bags, and abusers don't know key links. Now, if they needed help, it would you press something on the key ring, that it looked like a normal key ring, and that would go to someone, either the safe place, the police, social service, something to actually help.
Say they're in danger.
Now, I think that's something really worthwhile, because it's not just abuse, obviously sexual from people you know. It could be someone who's just kidnapped you from school. It could be anything. And abuse goes so many topics, and it's just trying to put something in place. And also I just think education with the adults as well. It's like education with the adults to be more aware of their surroundings, I think, is a massive one. And I do think that the more of us that are speaking out and making more noise, the more we will be noticed. I think it comes back to community. Like before, you'd know who your neighbour was.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be able to leave your front door open, and I don't even know who my neighbour is.
Yeah.
So it's about talking and trying to make that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we can all feel a little bit more safer.
Yeah.
Children should feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should feel scared.
Yeah. Have you seen the? I don't know whether you would have come across it, but I've created a new page on social media called Something to Say.
Yeah.
You seen it?
Yeah.
So that's actually what my aim is with that page.
Yeah.
Is to try to kind of create a community. So anybody that wants to feature sends in their picture. We got a template with like a bar across their mouth, and I've said it's like 1,000 characters to say what you want to say. Now a lot of people are submitting with their story, but I'm now getting, which I'm thankful for, I'm getting like professionals on there. When I say professionals, I mean people who work in these fields. Mm-hmm. So I've had a play therapist on there. I've had a self-defense coach on there. I've had counsellors on there saying their thing, because I feel like if we have a community of information, it just makes the word spread further.
Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah. I just hope that it's just going to grow into something, maybe even an organisation. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, people are really finding, because I've also encouraged people to go on there and speak. What I said is, what do you want to say that makes you feel strong when you say it? Yeah. I think that's really important. I think when we talk about our stories, for if it's available to you, if you can talk about it from a position of strength, right? Because I know it's sad, and I know it makes us all angry, and I know you know, there's a lot of tears to be had about it, but if we can talk about it from a position of strength, then that 13-year-old, that 12-year-old, that 15-year-old that's watching you, that possibly is going through something, so be like, oh, it's all they're talking. They're strong when they're talking about it. So maybe I should talk about what I'm going through. Yeah.
Or if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that's.
Like there was a person, one of our friends. There was part through the book I actually started giving up. I couldn't do it, and I nearly threw the computer. And he came to the house and he read a chapter. Chapter 15, and it's one of the worst chapters.
Okay.
It's basically where my stepdad takes me to one of his friend's house and abuses me and his daughter.
Okay.
So that's how sort of the paedophile thing started. And he read that, and he had been through quite a lot, and he said, if you can do it, I can get through what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And that little thing actually gave me the confidence, and I thought, maybe I can do this.
Yeah, brilliant.
And if I can inspire one person, then at least it'd be one person.
Yeah.
You know, I've helped one person. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and that's where I think, like, sometimes when you get good feedback on your social media, that really helps. Because it just lets you know. Because sometimes I wake up and I'm like, what are you doing? You know,
am I doing the right thing?
Am I doing the right thing? Why do you even think you could change anything? Sometimes I'm in that mind frame, like, not often, let's say 1 out of 20 days, that's where I'm at. But then I do two things. I scroll to my post this time last year, and I see what was going on this time last year, and I'm like, things have advanced brilliantly. And also I just read a couple of messages that are messages of people offering their support, and that just encourages me to continue. Because this is like a crazy journey to be on, because it's like, where are we going to get funding from? How are we going to generate funds? How are we going to keep going? What's the most efficient way to do things? How are we going to run social media? Like, it's really just tricky. It's a tricky situation.
It's a huge thing to do.
Yeah.
Very busy and hectic.
Yeah. But from the outside, people would be like, oh, you post once a day, what else are you doing?
But you don't see the things in the background.
Yeah, all that.
How many texts, messages. Trying to obviously help out, like, charities. Really hard to set up.
Okay,
a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. What's the charity going to be called?
Your Voice UK.
Okay, cool.
So that was meant to be already set up.
Yeah.
We were meant to get the certificate through, and it was meant to be accepted. And then we found out that actually it was the wrong one.
Okay.
That we had to have. Obviously, when it gets accepted, you have to put 5,000 into it.
Okay.
But obviously, I don't have that sort of money lying around.
Yeah.
So they changed that bit. So hopefully, it will be running again in a couple of weeks.
Yes. So, like, what are your first steps with the charity? Let's say when it's live.
I've got a massive I've got a massive investor at the moment.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of money into
Amazing.
it. I've got some fundraising events that we're going to be doing, which will hopefully help. We're going to do GoFundMe pages.
Yep.
We're going to hopefully get set up. We've got a potential place in Sussex, I think it is, or Staffordshire, where we've actually been offered a building.
Okay.
So obviously, to do that, obviously to get accepted that, we can obviously change the building. Hopefully, that will be.
Your home place.
There was this old private school, and we've been offered to from the council because otherwise they're going to be demolishing it.
Oh wow!
Which they've offered to put towards to the charity.
Okay.
So obviously it'll be a lot of things we need to do, like fire escapes. Obviously make sure it's
health and safety,
health
the
and
whole
safety, loads
lot.
of things, but it would be quicker than building.
Okay, so
buildings,
that's
so
pretty
that
incredible.
would take half the time it would take to. So hopefully that will be running. Obviously we'll try and do as many centres as we can. But we're going to start with one and see how that goes, and then obviously try and get number 2 set up.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, like, generating funds while we're trying to set things up is so tough. I released a donation page on my website, right? And I have now learned that asking people to donate money is good, and some people do donate, but it's not a source of income.
No.
It's not, because actually what you're doing is you're asking people to donate money for no exchange. So things like GoFundMe pages to let people know what the mission is and what they're donating to, and also merchandise and things like that. It's got to be the way forward.
Yeah, well, we've got quite a few events actually planned to make quite a bit of money. Hopefully that will obviously help the centres. And stuff like that. Okay,
so when you have these events, if you're going to put like a speaker thing on, just let me know.
Thank you. Definitely.
So if you're doing any of these fundraising events, just let me know, and I'll be happy to come and, I don't know, if you're like looking for 5 speakers or whatever to do 10 minutes each, like I'd be happy to come. Because I'm just trying to get my story out there as well, and just trying to get my view and opinion on it as well.
I think the reason why I actually asked you to do the live video is because I haven't actually come across someone like you, who obviously, no offence, a bloke, obviously, and there's so many people who've been abused as blokes, and a lot of people just think it's women.
Yes.
And for a bloke, they feel very embarrassed, like even more, and the pressure I can imagine is more harder. Because obviously I've had some people think, obviously how could a bloke be raped? But they don't look at everything that goes with it. And I think obviously I came across your Instagram. I think you texted me. But I watched all your videos. I thought, oh my god, you're doing an amazing thing.
Thank you. I'm so pleased that you
feel
said
so inspired.
Thank you.
To stand up and just say, do you know what, I've been through this, and try and make a difference is a big thing. I think you should be very glad.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And like I do know that I've come so far. I think I'm a little hard on myself, but maybe that's a good thing because I'm always just trying to always expand. We'll just continue to see how it goes. So should we wrap up?
Well, thank you for coming. For me to come.
For you coming to me.
But thank you for arranging this, and thank you for asking a few questions.
No problem. So for anybody that's been watching, thank you for watching, and thank you for watching, and you can check out any of my social media pages. I'm sure you'll put my links in the description, of the video, so you can check all of that out. And I haven't actually personally read the book, but that's something I'm going to do now, especially as I'm inspired to possibly write my own. I just wish you all the best, and we'll just keep in contact, right? We should do more of these.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Take care. Thank you.